10 Brutal Stoic Rules to Fixing Yourself. Fix your mind, restore your life. You have tried everything. You have read the self-help books, listened to hours of motivational podcasts, stayed up late, mapping out goals and promising yourself that this time it will be different. Yet after a few weeks you find yourself back at the same point, stuck in the same habits, the same procrastination, the same repeating disappointments, as if something inside has broken, keeping you circling while others keep moving forward. Imagine this: two people lose their jobs on the same day. One curses the system, blames the boss, and sinks into despair. The other wakes up early the next morning, sharpens his skills, and begins rebuilding from scratch. The same loss, the same pain, but completely different outcomes. Why? Because the raw truth is, this life does not defeat us. It is our own mind that brings us down. Here is the naked truth. You are not broken by what has happened to you. You are hurt by how you respond. The Stoics knew this better than anyone. Epictetus, an enslaved person who became a great philosopher, reminded his students that events do not hurt us. Still, the way we interpret them. Marcus Aurelius, an emperor surrounded by war and betrayal, wrote that the happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. Today, there are no emperors or enslaved people around you. Still, the same battles remain. People are chained not by iron but by their own thoughts. They do not fall to war but to endless distractions. They are not defeated by enemies but by lack of discipline. The world changes, but the battlefield stays the same, always inside the mind, and most people lose before the battle even begins. They wait for inspiration. They believe happiness will come when the job changes, when the partner arrives, when the money flows in. But the Stoics did not wait. They acted, they trained, they built themselves with discipline, with silence, with facing pain instead of running from it. Maybe right now you are tired of the lies you tell yourself, tired of the promise that tomorrow you will change, tired of waiting for perfect conditions that never arrive. What if the problem is not out there in the world, but in the rules you live by? What if the reason you are weak is because you have been following rules that keep you weak? The Stoics left us another set of rules, harsher, merciless but effective 10 brutal regulations that strip away illusions, tear down excuses, and force you to face yourself. They are not easy, they are not gentle, they demand pain, honesty, and discipline. But if practiced, they will rebuild you from within. They will fix your mind, and in doing so, they will fix your life. This is not about becoming perfect. This is not about pretending to be strong. It is about becoming solid, about turning your mind into a fortress no storm can break. Imagine this: you are no longer controlled by emotion. Failure no longer breaks you but trains you. You walk with a quiet strength, something that cannot be bought, something that cannot be faked. This is what these rules aim for. The truth is, no one is coming to save you. Not friends, not family, not your boss, not the government. The work of fixing yourself belongs only to you, and the longer you wait, the tighter the chains will grip. You have two choices. Keep living by the old rules and hope life will somehow become easier, or dare to step into the 10 brutal rules of Stoicism and forge yourself into the person you were meant to be. In this journey, we will go through each rule. Each one will force you to see life differently, challenge the lies you once believed in, and give you tools not only to patch the cracks in your mind, but also to build a stronger and more solid structure than ever. This is not a list to read and forget. This is a training ground. This is a discipline to live by, to repeat every day until it carves itself into your soul. If you are ready to stop waiting, stop pretending, stop running, then stay, because by the end of this journey, you will know exactly what to do to fix your mind, and in doing so, restore your life. And if this message has reached you, if you truly want to reclaim mastery over your mind, then subscribe to the channel and walk with us, because this is not just a channel, it is a community, a fortress where each person trains alongside the others in the strength of the inner life. Rule 1. Face the truth. The first brutal rule is this: you cannot fix yourself if you do not dare to face the truth. Not the truth dressed up to tell others, not the excuses whispered to comfort yourself before sleep, but the raw truth, with no cover, no disguise. Most people choose to run from truth. They bury it under endless entertainment, scroll their phone for hours, or drown themselves in busy work. To avoid sitting still with themselves, they blame others, blame circumstances, convince themselves they are unlucky, unfairly treated. The Stoics called it by its proper name: self-deception. And self-deception is the greatest enemy of growth. Think of someone who lost a job instead of admitting his skills have grown rusty. He blames the economy, his boss, his co-workers, or someone whose health declines instead of facing her harmful habits. She tells herself it is genetics. These people live in a prison not built by fate. Still, by the lies they feed themselves, change will never come as long as they live in lies. Marcus Aurelius, an emperor who carried an empire on his shoulders, wrote, "If someone shows me I am wrong, I will gladly change, for I seek the truth." The truth has never harmed anyone. The most powerful man in the world could bow before truth. So why do we make excuses to avoid it? The truth is always harsh. Your life today is the result of the choices you have made. Your body reflects your habits. Your mind reflects what you feed it daily. Your character reflects the promises you keep or break when no one is watching it. Sounds brutal, but it is freedom, because once you admit the truth, you finally hold the power to change it. The Stoics practiced this every day. Seneca questioned himself each night, not to condemn, but to see where he must train further. Marcus Aurelius began each morning, reminding himself of the hardships ahead, not to complain, but to prepare. Epictetus, born into slavery, told his students that freedom does not come from avoiding suffering, but from seeing it as it really is for them. Truth was the foundation of strength. How can you begin? Choose one area of your life and write down the raw truth. No excuses, no stories, just truth. For example, I waste my mornings staring at my phone. It makes me weaker, or I let anger control me, and it is destroying my relationships. These words may sting, but that sting points exactly to where your repair must begin. Facing truth will hurt. It feels like a wound opened to the cold air. But a wound never exposed to light will never heal. Pain is not the enemy, it is the signal that you still have the chance to grow. Truth is the foundation before discipline, before courage, before mission. There must be truth without it. Everything else is a castle of sand. With it you stand on solid ground. And once you dare to face the truth, the next step becomes unavoidable. You must stop playing the victim, because truth without responsibility is only another form of escape. And that is where we go next. Rule 2. Stop playing the victim. One of the reasons people never change is that they keep choosing to live as victims. When life does not go their way, they blame their parents, society, their boss, circumstances, anyone but themselves, and in doing so, they throw away the very power to change their destiny. Look around you. Some people spend their whole lives saying, "I am poor because of this country. I failed because my family did not support me. I am unhappy because others hurt me." This way of thinking may bring comfort for a moment, but the cost is a lifetime stripped of control, because when you are always the victim, you are no longer the captain of your own ship. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. And this you have the power to revoke at any moment." The Stoics did not deny hardship, nor did they ignore the injustices of life. Still, they refused to hand over the right to define their lives to outside forces. Imagine two people both betrayed in love. One collapses, lives in bitterness, closes his heart and becomes a cynic. The other suffers just as profoundly, but instead of playing the victim, they take the lesson, find strength in forgiveness, and move forward with the same wound, but with two completely different lives. Stopping the victim role does not mean denying what you have gone through. Yes, maybe you were born into hardship. Yes, perhaps you were betrayed, used, abandoned. But remember this: suffering is an event ongoing. Misery is a choice. You cannot control what has happened, but you always control the meaning you give it. The practical solution is demanding but straightforward. Each day, take responsibility for at least one thing in your life. Practice writing. I take responsibility for how I reacted this morning when criticized. Or I take responsibility for how I used my time last night. As you begin naming responsibility, you reclaim the pieces of strength you once gave away. Epictetus said that no man is free who is not a master of himself, and no one is free who keeps throwing his faults on others. When you stop being the victim, you begin stepping into the territory of freedom. Freedom is not the absence of hardship. It is the knowledge that you still have the power to choose your response in every situation. You cannot fix your life if you cling to the role of a victim, because the victim waits to be saved, but the responsible person stands and saves himself. Once you stop playing the victim, the next step will come naturally. You must learn to embrace discomfort, which is the training ground of a strong mind. Rule 3. Embrace discomfort. Modern life surrounds us with comfort. Fast food takes minutes, entertainment is always on the phone, and air conditioning keeps us from ever feeling too hot or cold. Yet that comfort makes us weak. When used only to ease the slightest difficulty, throws us into panic. The Stoics long understood a truth: discomfort is not the enemy, it is the teacher. Seneca advised practicing simplicity, sleeping on a hard floor, eating plain food for a few days, not because he loved poverty, but because he wanted to remind himself, "If tomorrow I lose everything, I can still live." By stepping willingly into discomfort, we free ourselves from the fear of loss. Daily, one person wakes up early and exercises, even when the air is cold. His eyes are heavy. Another hits the snooze button, seeking 10 more minutes of comfort. One walks into the day with strength and clarity, the other carries fatigue and heaviness. The same morning, embracing or avoiding discomfort has drawn two very different lives. Discomfort is the most accurate test of will. No motivation is more reliable than the ability to endure and move forward when ease is gone. In the moments you face cold fatigue, hunger, or heavy silence, you finally see your real strength. Epictetus clarified that we cannot choose our circumstances, but always choose our response. Embracing discomfort is training for wise response in adversity. For if you do not train yourself in minor daily hardships, you will collapse when life throws an absolute storm at you. You can begin with the smallest acts: a cold shower in the morning, walking farther instead of taking the ride, or eating a plain meal without rich flavors. What matters is not extremity, but building the habit of stepping into inconvenience willingly. Once you master minor discomforts, larger struggles will no longer frighten you. When was the last time you dared to enter discomfort? Or have you grown too used to taking the easy way, avoiding anything that unsettles you? Remember, no resilience is born from comfort, only weakness grows there. Embracing discomfort is not about punishing yourself, it is about freedom. When you know you can endure, you no longer fear. When you know you can live with less, you finally understand what enough is, and when you can pass through minor pains, you will not collapse before greater ones. This is the third step in fixing yourself. Stop running, step straight into discomfort, and once you learn to live with it, you will see the next necessity: discipline, because without discipline, every experience fades, never taking root. Rule 4: discipline matters more than emotion. People often tell themselves, "When I feel like it, I will start. When I am ready, I will act." But the truth is, emotions rise and fall like waves, never stable. If you live only by inspiration, your life will be like a small boat tossed whichever way the wind blows. Discipline is the compass. Discipline is doing what is right, even when you do not want to, even when every cell in your body resists. The Stoics did not wait for motivation. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself each morning, "When you wake up, remember, your work is to be a human being." There was no line about inspiration, only duty, only responsibility to himself. Look at daily life. One person promises to exercise, but only goes when he feels like it. The first week, he is excited, the next he skips. Soon he is back at the start. Another quietly rises at the same hour every morning, rain or shine, mood or no mood. After a year, one still complains about his body. At the same time, the other has grown strong and confident, which made the difference not motivation, but discipline. Discipline is like a muscle. The more you train it, the stronger it becomes. If you neglect it, it withers. You fall back into the cycle of emotions: high when excited, broken when discouraged. The Stoics taught that true freedom does not come from doing whatever you want, but from control over yourself. Epictetus said that no man is free and is a slave to his desires. How do you begin? Do not try to change your entire life in one night. Choose one small habit and commit to it daily, no matter your feelings. It could be writing 3 lines in a journal each morning, walking 10 minutes, or reading 1 page. What matters is not the size, but the repetition. Each time you keep discipline, you cast a vote for the person you want to become. Emotions will betray you. Today you feel inspired, tomorrow you feel tired, but discipline is faithful. It carries you through weary mornings, through dull evenings, through nights. When you want to quit, and when you look back, you will see it was discipline that shaped the person you desired to be. Discipline does not kill emotion. In truth, it builds the ground where real emotion can thrive. The joy of finishing a commitment, the confidence of keeping a promise to yourself, the peace of knowing you are no longer a slave to shifting moods. This is lasting joy, not fleeting excitement. If you want to fix your life, begin by honoring discipline above emotion, for emotions are passing guests. Still, discipline is a lifelong companion, and when discipline has become the backbone of your being, you will discover another truth. Life does not need much to be enough. That is why Rule 5 will take you to a harsh but freeing step: the practice of simplicity. Rule 5: simplify your life. One of the greatest mistakes of modern people is believing that happiness comes from having more money, more possessions, more comfort, more admiration. But the truth is the opposite. The more things surround you, the heavier your mind becomes. Each object, each excess relationship, each useless piece of information is like an invisible chain keeping you from walking freely. The Stoics understood this thousands of years ago. Seneca wrote, "The rich man is not the one who has much, but the one who needs little," a simple line. Yet it reveals a profound philosophy. Freedom does not come from adding more, but from the power to let go. The less you depend on what is outside, the less you can be harmed. Look around the room you live in. How many things are essential? How many sit there gathering dust, adding no value, except taking space and attention, and not just material things? The same is true in your mind. How many half-hearted relationships are draining your energy? How many meaningless comparisons on social media are eating away at your confidence? How many rumors and trivial news stories are thinning your focus every day? Simplifying does not mean deprivation. It means knowing what matters and daring to remove the rest. A room with fewer objects is not necessarily poor, but it can bring space to the mind. A life with less noise is not necessarily empty, but it can return to you the peace you have long lost. Picture two people. One lives in a house crowded with things recently bought, always chasing what might be needed. Yet each day he remains uneasy, anxious, feeling something is missing. The other lives in a tidy room, keeping only what truly serves life. Outside it looks emptier, but inside there is space, lightness. Who is truly rich? The Stoics lived this as a way of life. They chose simplicity to remind themselves that happiness does not rest in luxury. Seneca told of days when he deliberately lived like people experiencing poverty, eating simple food, asking himself, "Is this what I once feared?" When a person steps into lack by choice, they discover a truth. The things that once frightened us are not nearly as terrible as we imagined. You can begin simplifying with tiny steps. Each week, remove one object you no longer use. Spend one evening without your phone, without notifications, just sitting still or speaking sincerely with someone, and try reducing the urge to shop once, and instead focus on enjoying what you already have. The hardest part is not throwing away objects, but throwing away the feeling of needing more. That craving is the real chain. When you learn to say enough, you feel lighter, like dozens of heavy bags have been lifted off your back. Simple living is not the goal, but the tool. It gives you space to see clearly what matters, frees you from the fear of loss, and brings you back to yourself instead of into the endless game of comparison and accumulation. Simplifying is a brutal rule because it forces you to face your attachments. You will see you control less than you believed, and that many things were never needed. But in that release, you find freedom, because you cannot repair your mind while living in clutter that blinds the eyes and dulls the heart. And once you have learned to live simply on the outside, you will discover a deeper complexity that must be tamed. The noise inside your mind for letting go of possessions is not enough. You must also learn to reclaim inner silence. Rule 6: keep inner silence. The modern world is overflowing with noise. Every morning, as soon as you open your eyes, your phone rings. Notifications, emails, news, social media, all of it floods your mind before you even take a deep breath. Before the day begins, your head is already a battlefield of chaos. The danger is that you have grown so used to it that you no longer notice your peace slipping away. The Stoics saw silence as a form of strength. Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself that the calm of the mind mattered more than anything outside. He wrote, "People look for peace in the countryside, at the sea, in the mountains, but that is naive. You can find peace within your own mind whenever you choose." Silence does not mean the world around you has no sound. It means the noise does not distract your mind. In the middle of a loud marketplace, you still keep clarity. In anger or anxiety, you still keep space to choose your response. This is the silence the Stoics trained for. Think of a simple scene. One person is insulted at work and instantly snaps back, raising his voice, and then carries bitterness all day. Another hears the exact words, takes a breath, says nothing, and continues working. In the end, it is calmness that makes the other feel shame. The strength here is not in the reply, but in the ability to keep the mind from being seized. Silence is the fortress of the mind. When you no longer react hastily, you become hard to shake. When you can pause before speaking or acting, you take back control. This is not a weakness, but a silent strength that makes others cautious around you. How do you train silence? Start with small moments. Before you touch your phone each morning, sit quietly for 5 minutes, breathe and watch your thoughts. Each time anger rises, count to 10 inside instead of reacting at once. Each evening, turn off every screen at least 30 minutes before sleep. Hence, your mind is no longer stuffed with input. These small habits grow into absolute inner stillness. Seneca said, "There is no favorable wind for the sailor who does not know where he is going." A noisy mind is a rudderless ship carried by every wave. A quiet mind is a ship that knows its harbor and does not let the outer waves decide. When you keep inner silence, you create space to choose instead of being pushed. Remember, silence is not an escape. It is not hiding from the world, but widening the inner space so you can step into the world with steadiness. When you are calm inside, no storm outside can bring you down. Keeping inner silence is one of the most brutal lessons because it forces you to face the loudest noise inside your head. But when you overcome it, you hold the most potent weapon, unshakable peace. And once you find that silence, you will see another truth. No person grows in absolute isolation. We need the right kind of companions, leading to the following rule. Choose your allies wisely. Rule 7. Choose your companions wisely. No one can build a strong life if surrounded by people who pull them down. Your environment shapes you more than you think. Look at the 5 people you spend the most time with and ask yourself, are they lifting or pulling you under? The Stoics understood the power of community. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "We are born to work together like hands and feet." He knew no one could stand firm alone, yet he also warned that the wrong companions are more dangerous than walking alone. Picture someone trying to quit drinking. If his friends are men who drink every night, his chances of falling back are high. Still, if his new circle is made of disciplined people who value health and love movement, that environment will carry him further than his original willpower could. Friends are like invisible winds. Some carry your ship toward open waters, others blow you into the rocks. You cannot fix yourself while clinging to people who choose ease, envy, or complaint. Every word they speak, every act they repeat leaves a mark on you, even when you do not notice. Epictetus warned his students, "If you spend time with complainers, you will learn to complain. If you walk with the noble, you will learn to live nobly." Human beings are easily shaped, so the critical choice is not only what goals you set, but who walks beside you toward them. The practical step is to review your relationships. Be honest and ask, Who among them truly pushes you to become better? Who drags you into weaker habits? You do not need to cut everyone off in a single day, but you can shift your energy, spend more time with those who carry discipline, vision, and the calmness you want to learn. And if you cannot find anyone like that yet, start by becoming that person yourself. When you hold discipline, silence, and self-respect, you naturally draw others of the same kind. Marcus Aurelius reminded, "A good man should be like a stone thrown in water, sending ripples outward." Choosing your companions wisely is a brutal rule because it forces you to face the truth that not everyone deserves to walk with you. But once you dare to choose, the road ahead becomes clearer and your steps become steadier. And even with faithful companions by your side, life will still place obstacles in front of you. And when that happens, you must learn another rule: to turn the barriers into the path. Rule 8. See obstacles as the path. People often imagine happiness as a straight road. They believe if only every difficulty were removed, life would become easy. But the harsh truth is this: hardship never disappears. Avoid one challenge and another arrives. Endure one pain and another waits ahead. Obstacles are not exceptions. They are the very fabric of life. The Stoics did not run from obstacles, they learned to use them. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way," a teaching that sounds paradoxical but holds liberating power. Instead of cursing what blocks them, they saw it as training, an opportunity to sharpen virtue. Think of an athlete who suffers an injury. Many would see it as the end, as a loss beyond repair, but some turn it into a chance to focus on other skills, to train smarter, to grow mental toughness. Instead of only muscle, the fall itself becomes the springboard. Or a person who fails in business, losing all capital, some collapse and spend the rest of their lives bitter. Still others take the blow and gain priceless lessons: patience, understanding the market, managing risk, and those lessons fuel success on the next attempt. The point is not how significant the obstacle is, but how you see it. If you treat it as a wall, you stop. If you treat it as a step, you climb higher. Your attitude decides whether you break or advance. The Stoics trained this with the practice of premeditation, malform imagining ahead of time the troubles that might appear during the day, not to frighten themselves but to be prepared. So when hardship arrived, they were not shocked, not resentful, but calm and ready to respond. You can begin by writing, "If I am criticized today, I will practice listening instead of anger. And if my plan fails, I will treat it as a lesson and try another way." When you train your mind like this, the obstacle loses its terror and you rise stronger each time you stumble. Seeing obstacles as the path is a brutal rule because it forces you to give up complaining. You no longer get to say, "Why me?" only because it is me. What will I do next? In that turn, you make adversity your ally. And once you learn to see obstacles as opportunities, you will recognize the next truth. You must keep faith with yourself, for without that trust, every obstacle can still crush you, and that is the next step in the work of repair. Rule 9. Keep your promises to yourself. One of the quietest tragedies of life is losing faith in yourself. You may forgive someone else when they break a promise, but when you keep breaking promises to yourself, you destroy the foundation of self-respect, and without self-respect, you no longer have the strength to stand firm against life. Remember the time you promised to wake early but hit the snooze button, the time you promised to exercise but quit after a few days, the time you promised to read but instead wasted hours scrolling. Each time you do this, you do not just lose a habit, You tell yourself your own word cannot be trusted. Small cracks grow into wide gaps, until finally you no longer believe you can change. The Stoics saw keeping promises to oneself as the foundation of character. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself to always act according to the nature of a human being and not let yourself slip from that path. For him, each consistent action was a promise kept. Seneca wrote that nothing is more shameful than failing to do what you set out to do. Real strength is not in grand declarations, but in small commitments honored repeatedly. A man may speak 100 noble words, but if he cannot keep a single promise to himself, those words are only air. Yet a man who is faithful in small things, going to bed on time, writing a few lines and exercising for 10 minutes over time, builds self-respect into a fortress that cannot be shaken. The practical solution is not to make huge vows, but to start with commitments so small they are impossible to fail. Choose one thing, only one, and hold to it for 7 days. Drink a glass of water after waking. Write one line of gratitude. Before bed, the size does not matter. What matters is the steadiness. Once you see, you can keep a promise to yourself. Trust returns, and from there you can build greater commitments. Think of each kept promise as a brick laid in the foundation. The more bricks, the stronger the wall of your self-respect. When that wall rises high, no storm can easily break it down. Keeping your promises to yourself is a brutal rule because it leaves no hiding place. You may deceive others, but you cannot fool yourself. If you fail, you know it fully, but that very severity builds strength, because when you know you can trust your own word, you walk into life with confidence that nothing can break. And once you have learned to guard that trust, you will be ready for the final rule: to live for mission, not for fleeting feelings. Rule 10: live for mission, not for fleeting feelings. People are often ruled by passing emotions today. They feel joy and work hard. Tomorrow they feel sad and give up. At times they are full of determination. They sink into laziness. Life becomes a train swaying back and forth with mood. But a strong life cannot be built on shifting feelings. It can only stand firm when grounded in a clear mission. Marcus Aurelius, surrounded by war and betrayal, reminded himself daily, "Do not act as if you will live forever. Death is waiting so while you are alive." At the same time, you still can do what is fitting for a human being. For him, life's mission was not to chase short-lived pleasures, but to live by reason, duty, and purpose greater than himself. Think of a soldier. He does not go to the battlefield because he seeks comfort or happiness. He goes because of the mission to protect. Personal joy may come or go, but mission holds him steady. The same is true for the healer who does not stay up all night in study because he feels inspired, but because his work will save lives. The same for the parent who wakes each night to care for a child, not out of pleasure, but because of the mission to nurture. When you live by mission, you are no longer easily broken by feelings, tired or not. You work bored or not. You work applauded or not. And within that steadiness, you find a more profound joy, the joy of a meaningful life. You can begin finding your mission by asking, if today were my last day, what do I want to have lived for? The answer will not be in fleeting pleasures, but in lasting values, integrity, love, service, and discipline. Please write it down in a short line and let it remind you each morning. The Stoics believed that a life with mission is never a meaningless life. Epictetus, born into slavery, found his mission in teaching philosophy to free the minds of others. Marcus Aurelius, though the most powerful man alive, saw his mission as embodying justice. Seneca believed his mission was to guide the next generation to live with greater wisdom than he himself did. Mission is not something distant, it can be simple, yet if you remain faithful to it, it becomes a flame that lights your entire life. A teacher who devotes himself to his students, a worker who holds integrity in his craft, an individual who keeps promises to himself. These are missions great enough to define a life. Living for mission is a brutal rule because it demands that you give up indulging your moods, yet it grants the deepest freedom from being tossed by every emotional wave. You can no longer be lost when you know what you live for. And by arriving at this final rule, you see the work of repair complete, from facing truth, refusing the victim role, embracing discomfort, keeping discipline, simplifying, finding inner silence, choosing companions, turning obstacles into the path, keeping promises to yourself, and at last living for mission. This is the path to repair the mind, and in that way, repair the whole of life. Looking back at the 10 brutal rules, you will see they are not scattered ideas, still a continuous journey to repair the mind, and through that repair your life, beginning with facing the truth. You force yourself out of the fog of illusion. Stopping the victim role gives you back control. Embracing discomfort builds endurance. Discipline makes you consistent. Simplifying clears away the excess outside, while silence clears the noise within. Choosing companions wisely gives you the right environment to grow. Seeing obstacles as the path turns adversity into a springboard. Keeping promises to yourself restores inner trust. And finally, living for mission lifts you above fleeting feelings into lasting meaning. These are 10 brutal rules, yet each one gives back a piece of strength you once lost. They do not promise ease or turn you into a perfect being overnight, but if you practice, you will feel the chains in your mind fall away. Your steps grow firmer, and each day you live will hold more freedom. As someone who studies and lives by Stoic philosophy, I remind you that true strength does not come from knowing many things, but from doing steadily. No one can train for you. No one can build the fortress in your mind except you. Do not try to change everything at once. Begin with the single rule that strikes you most in this moment. It may be daring to face the truth. It may be keeping a promise to yourself, or as simple as practicing 5 minutes of silence each morning. Once you choose, link it to a small daily act. If you select discipline, keep one habit for 7 straight days. If you choose silence, sit still with your breath 5 minutes before touching your phone. If you choose discomfort, try cold showers for a week each night. Write your progress, what you did, how you felt, what you learned. Writing strengthens the habit. It gives you proof that you are changing. Do not keep your commitment hidden. Share in the comments which rule you will apply today. When you make it public, you double your strength to keep it. Perhaps your choice becomes the spark someone else needs. Remember, change comes not from hearing another idea, but from choosing one small step and practicing it today. You should pause, choose one rule from these 10, and write it in the comments. Let that be your commitment to yourself and your reminder to others who need strength. If this message has reached you, share the video with someone you believe also needs it. Press like and subscribe to Sovereign Stoic, so together we can build the inner fortress, a place where people train side by side in resilience and freedom each day.